You can get real geeky with it.
Yeah, I guess we could actually, because nobody really has that same comic book lore connection as like the three of us. So I guess this is kind of for the best, because that way we can get like super nerdy and also super goofy with the tangents. So it'll work out. It'll all play out. So
Nice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Take Socks and Tangents. I am Trey, and I am joined by Dickson and special guest Erik.
Woo!
Hello.
Yeah, woo,
Yeah, woo!
yeah, woo.
Y'all can't see this. I'm waving at them, and we spent 5 minutes prepping, but this is what it's like. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is very
Welcome,
exciting.
welcome.
Our first guest, technically second guest, but that episode got messed up. So
Oh, no way!
So it'll never see the light of day.
Oh, I mean, I won't. I'll give them that honor, whoever that special guest may be. But I'm just happy to end up on the pod. Long-time listener.
Yes, friend of the show. You've been name dropped a lot, actually.
Thank you for
Okay.
supporting.
Thank you. I would like to address the name drop. I have notes. I prepped for this episode. So that's the thing. Once I found out I was joining y'all tonight, and I was to myself, okay, the first thing I'm doing on this pod is addressing that name drop I got maybe like 4 episodes ago.
Hell
So
yeah.
this is for Takes, Talks, and Tangents member Clyde. Do not be spreading falsehoods on my name. I'm paying for my Amazon Prime like a good citizen, like a good person. That charge is no joke every year. I'm on that annual payment, and it hurts my soul every time. So, yes, I watched the entire series of Fallout on Prime that I paid for, and it just be like that. Shout out Ella Purnell. You're dope. You look like a real-life battle angel Alita, and I just want that out in the world.
Yo, that sequel's coming eventually, I heard.
Is it?
Oh, it better.
Well, before his producing partner passed away, James Cameron's producing partner, John Landau, said that they were actively talking to Robert Rodriguez and trying to get it off the ground. But unfortunately, John Landau passed last month. So I don't know what's happening with that now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, him and James Cameron have
RIP.
made like almost all of James Cameron's movies together since Titanic.
Gosh dang. So pretty much the entirety of like the spike of his career.
Yeah, like almost all his big stuff post Terminator 2, I think they made together. So yeah, that was actually a pretty big deal for him. Because I don't think he's did like a little message, but I don't think he's had like a whole sit down to talk about it yet. But yeah, no, it's great having you on. This is very exciting. Sorry, Clyde's not here. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that from Clyde later. Sorry, Clyde.
I'll hear about it from him too, and it'll be fine. We'll address it on separate ends, and then he'll say something on this pod, and then I can bring it up when I'm invited back. Hopefully, I'm invited back. Fingers crossed.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
however many episodes.
But I definitely wanted to get this episode up and out and running because today we are talking about Deadpool and Wolverine and the MCU overall. I'm sure this is a topic we'll probably end up coming back to, the MCU, just because this is something everybody likes talking about. But yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine came out last weekend, have like the biggest opening weekend for any R-rated movie ever. It's like tracking to hit like 820 million after this weekend already.
My gosh, is that
yeah.
actual factual?
Yes, I was just, hold on, let me double check, but I was just looking at that. Dickson, you were about to say something, go ahead.
If you don't focus on the story, it's amazing.
Jumping into it, I see.
And that's my take on it. Holy shit, 630 million first week is what I'm seeing here.
It's tracking to make $94 million this weekend just in America.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to consider it's getting an MCU movie treatment where it takes up probably like 80% of the screens in every theater.
Yeah, it's not like this is just a Fox Marvel movie, but even then, these always still made bank as like Fox Marvel movies. So it's not like we're trying to downplay this one or downplay any of them. It's just like, I think I'm looking at an article from the Hollywood Reporter saying that it crossed 300 million on Friday.
My gosh. Oh wait, this past Friday?
Yeah, just yesterday.
Wow, all right. So
Yeah.
in a week. I don't even think Dark Phoenix made that much money.
Oh, Dark Phoenix, that was a movie.
That was a movie. It
It
wasn't even a film, it was a movie.
Yeah, that was something. I guess we can get into it now. So Dickson and actually, you know what, Eric, you go first. You're the guest.
Yeah, Eric, you go first.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. So Dickson said the first thing, which is if you don't focus on the story, it's incredibly funny. And that's the thing. I thought the very first thing I have to say about it is it's hilarious. I thought it was really funny, and I'm not sure if it's Ryan Reynolds just getting an opportunity to just whiff, but man, I think thinking about the trilogy of Deadpool movies, I can't really like place them. I think they're all just as funny as each other, but having Hugh Jackman to kind of bounce off of, pretty much like a partner to bounce off of, because Cable in the second one was like a little too serious and didn't like allow a lot of opportunity for humor. But I think the snark from Hugh Jackman's Logan made for some serious comedy. I was enjoying pretty much every joke that dropped or landed. Or I should say every joke that dropped landed for me.
He definitely felt like a better straight man to Deadpool's zaniness than Cable did.
Oh, for sure. I feel like Cable is too plot focused, maybe? I don't know. It's weird to say anything is plot focused in a Deadpool movie.
Yeah. Dickson, you go ahead.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, if you don't focus on the story, it's a great action comedy. I love that they brought Hugh Jackman back, but I also loved all the other cameos. Oh, well, spoilers alert.
Oh, yeah. We should. Let's go ahead and say it now. So we are obviously going to be spoiling Deadpool and Wolverine. So if you have not seen the movie yet, please tap out now. I don't want to hear about it later. You can leave comments on Spotify now, so don't be leaving no comments saying, you guys spoiled the movie. It's only been out for... That's the whole fucking point. We're spoiling it. Shut up.
Yeah. And it's only been like 8 minutes into this pod. I think you must have realized it by now.
Facts.
Yeah, but yeah, all the cameos were great.
My laptop was hollering.
I did. Yeah, so was mine. I did. I want to talk about the other Wolverines.
All right, hold on.
They come from, but we'll get into that.
I was gonna say, give us your quickie mini review.
Yeah, quick mini review. Great action, great comedy, and I just in the overall story, I'm still having trouble like placing how it could fit into the MCU. And yeah, that's my issue with it. But besides that, I think that it was a good use of both those characters, and just love they brought Hugh back, and he did his thing, and Ryan did his thing, and yeah, that's I don't know. That's how I feel.
I have a question for you, Dickson.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any expectations going into seeing this movie?
Not real expectations, but I was excited to all the footage leaked online. Well, not footage, but when we saw the suit, right? When we saw the leaked suit and the trailer leaked a bunch of other stuff in the movie, I was like, okay, very low expectations here. I wasn't, not that I didn't think the other Deadpools were funny, but I didn't think this one definitely much funnier than the other two, I feel like. But he had somebody to work with, like you guys said, so it's like, it's different. Because the other two he did it on his own. But yeah, low expectations, very low expectations.
That's what I try and do too. But as I mentioned before, he had Josh Brolin in the second one as his straight man, but yeah, I think honestly Hugh Jackman just played a better straight man just because Logan's supposed to be super snarky.
Right. Yeah. And Cable's save the world, save the future. So he can't really, I feel like there's also a lot of characters wasted in the second one that we could have, either seen in other movies or they have their own little thing.
Don't get me started on wasted characters, bro.
That's sure. Trey, can we hear your thoughts?
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about what wasn't in Deadpool 3 that should have followed from Deadpool 2. But go ahead, Trey.
I don't know how to feel about this movie after seeing it again today. Because I had a very unique viewing experience with this movie the first time I saw it. Because, okay, so we said spoilers already. I literally knew I knew almost every single one of these cameos going into the movie, except for two. One was Chris Evans as the Human Torch, which stayed a surprise up until I saw the movie. The other one was Wesley Snipes' Blade, and that really pissed me off and kind of like soured me on like my first viewing. I'll fully own up and admit to that. But I feel like that also we got Terrence.
Theoretically.
Yay!
Here he is.
What up, Terrence?
Hello. How are you?
He's still loading in.
I'm honored to be here.
We like to have you. Guests are fun.
So sweet.
This
so
is-
sweet. So honored.
Get to hear voices that aren't ours is always nice.
We just started doing the Deadpool and Wolverine talks and recaps.
I haven't seen it, so I'm just going to react to things very strongly.
Okay.
I do
Mike,
not care about
I was
spoilers,
going to say, you don't plan on seeing it, right?
Not really. And even if I was, spoilers I enjoy, so feel free to spoil.
Okay, so I was just going over how having Wesley Snipes as Blade in it, like, spoiled literally 2 hours before I saw it, kind of soured my, like, viewing experience. But I also, I feel like my two viewing experiences, because I've seen it twice now. The first time I saw it was locally here, in New Jersey at my local theater, my local AMC. Excuse me. And then today I went across the bridge into Philly, and I saw it in, like, IMAX 3D. I have the AMC A-list thing, so that's why I'm like, I paid to see it twice, or not really, but whatever. So the first time I saw it is very much an opening weekend crowd. So like a lot of the moments that were made to land big did, but I also feel like a lot of them didn't. And now I feel like this weekend, the crowd I saw it with, it felt very much more like the people who were seeing it just to be part of the conversation, or like even some Marvel comic book fans who were like trying to wait until maybe after the opening weekend to see it. And I feel like that the first audience is very much in the same camp as you guys, where like the movie's very, very funny. It's very quick-witted, and that's what carries the movie more than anything else, is a lot of the comedy, a lot of the improv and riffing between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds and everyone, really. Because I remember that was like a big part of the strikes for Deadpool and Wolverine. If they got permission to shoot during the strikes, Ryan Reynolds would have been able to improv, because that's technically rewriting and new writing. So, and he's also credited as a writer on the movie, so that literally would have been him rewriting. So that was one of the reasons why like this movie ended up getting delayed and whatnot. But anyway,
I remember that being a big deal during this writing strike.
yeah. So that clearly would have just like completely impacted this movie. So I guess I genuinely still don't know how to feel about this movie. And I say that because it feels like it's designed only for people who are fans of the MCU and Marvel Comics and nobody else. I feel like that became more apparent today, because a lot of the moments where there's supposed to be big reactions, nothing happened. And like it kind of really emphasized the lack of story in this movie, because like Ryan Reynolds' chemistry with Hugh Jackman is really what carries it, which is why this movie really doesn't move until Hugh Jackman shows up. And, like, this movie really has no real energy of any kind until he pops up.
Agreed.
And like this movie also leans way too heavily on cameos, especially since all the cameos, the people are in the movie for like a total of maybe 5 minutes of screen time. And for some of them, like the camera's shaking so much, you can't really see them doing the action. So it doesn't really, you're like, oh, they're there, but I can't really see it. So it's like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I have no strong feelings about the movie. I have like strong disappointments with it, but like I guess that's a part of me where I'm just like, well, they could have done this and should have done this, but they did this instead. And to me, it's just more of the MCU doing what is safest and easiest, and people still love it. And I just gotta accept that it's just not for me anymore.
Yeah, I think that's why
something
I'm
we've
like,
talked about a lot. Oh, sorry, Terrence. Please go ahead.
no, you're good. I'm saying like that's why I think I'm not as interested to see it. Deadpool's never really been like my thing. The humor just doesn't land for me in the same way that it does for a lot of people. But I think like
That was me
the
with this one.
continuation of just like making the safest choice possible and like making Marvel movies as opposed to making movies that people really are excited to see and excited to make is what kind of like leads to the stale feeling that I feel like a lot of people have.
Yep.
But I do think when you have like when you cast stars who have charisma that really can like carry a situation like that. Like I also out in theaters right now, Twitter's is carried by the charisma between its two stars. Like Glenn Powell is a legitimate movie star. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like this movie is where it becomes clear, and he has a lot of charisma with Daisy Edgar Jones, and that film is carried by that. So I think on one side, we're kind of seeing like we're going to make safe creative choices. I'm hoping that we're going to see kind of the return to putting a lot of care into casting and chemistry reading with actors, because I think that what we're seeing is that is a big draw to people, and I'm hoping that leads us down a path to like having like legitimate movie stars again. I don't know, it feels like we've been missing that for so long. It feels like Tom Cruise is like the only legitimate movie star that we like have now, and I feel like if like the natural charisma and the like connection between leads takes us back down that road, I'm excited for that, and if this can contribute to that, I think that would be super cool. So hopefully that carries over.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of the problem. That's something a lot of people have been pointing out lately, is that nobody really goes to see the people in the movies. They go to see the characters in the movies. I feel like that's kind of why like they're pushing so hard for the MCU to be considered the main Marvel continuity now. And that's why they don't really credit the creators like they used to anymore. Like a lot at the end of a lot of these movies, it just says characters created by Marvel Comics, which kind of sucks. I did notice during the credits of Deadpool and Wolverine, they did actually credit. I think they credited every creator for the characters. The only person I noticed, maybe I missed, was Blade. I was like, oh, where's the credit for Blade? But yeah, it's those sort of things where like it's characters first. Well, I should say IP characters first, and everything else comes second. Where it's like you got to put these big recognizable characters and big recognizable moments that get reactions and go viral. Whereas telling a story and hiring like talented actors goes to the wayside. Like this was something Dickson brought up recently, of not really caring for a lot of actors because most of them aren't really that great. Like I feel like this new generation of actors that are coming up now are very good, to be honest, but like there was a time where like it felt like we had movie stars who were just there to be be an iconic character, not necessarily act and bring something to that character.
It feels like they love movies. Like, not to bring it back to the same person, but like just like watching interviews and stuff with Glenn Powell, who's like star is so high on the rise right now. The dude loves movies. He loves making movies. Like you can feel how much he loves to do this and how like this is my dream and I'm doing it and it's awesome. And like you can feel that when he's talking and when he's performing. And I think that kind of is infectious. And if we can let just people do what they're passionate about, then we'll see a lot more of that, both in the MCU and in like media in general.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen, just because they had a hard time getting this movie made, because like Ryan Reynolds pitched like 70 different versions of it, and Kevin Feige kept saying no to everything. So I don't even know.
God damn it, Kevin.
I don't even know what they do from here, where they go from here. I know one of the big things people keep complaining about with this movie is the villain was too overpowered, and I did read somewhere that Charles Xavier was originally supposed to be the villain, which would have been interesting, but he also would have been too overpowered, so I don't know how they would have made that work. But I guess it makes sense since they just pivoted to his sister instead as the villain. But
was that what you were mentioning before, Trey? Because I know you did mention that you knew that there was supposed to be another villain written into this movie. Yeah. Was it Charles Xavier? Because she read something different.
Yeah, apparently it's supposed to be like a multiversal version of Professor X, who's going to be like evil and stuff.
Okay. I read something else, that it was supposed to be Mephisto.
Mephisto is supposed to be...
Oh, they would not.
Yes, no. Mephisto is supposed to be in, Ironheart. There we go.
That's a weird placement for Mephisto, too.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. They're just doing shit to do
It's like they want to force in these big bads.
I feel like if you're going to introduce Mephisto, it would have to be with the new Doomsday Avengers. He's too big of a bad character to be... I mean, I don't know, because like Ultron's supposed to be too big of a bad character, too, to be defeated so easily in one movie.
I was going to say, Ultron was one and done. I mean, do we want to talk about Doomsday now, or do we want to keep talking about Deadpool and Wolverine and then go to the Doctor Doom news? Because that's what really... I was like, yeah, I got to type out now.
Yeah, I do have a few more things to say about Deadpool and Wolverine, if that's cool.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Let's stay on Deadpool and Wolverine for now, because we haven't really talked too much about it.
I want to segue into it, because if we're talking about villains, I was telling Trey and Dickson, after sitting with it and then Dickson asking us what we thought about it, and then me thinking about the villain we did end up with, Cassandra Nova. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, way too overpowered, but honestly, she just doesn't really make a lot of sense in this film. Like, as far as like the purpose of this antagonist, I feel like it just didn't really matter who it was. So when Dickson asked this, we had gotten a RDJ announcement as well. And it led me to just thinking about what they're trying to do in the long run. So if I had a pitch, if I had the choice to rewrite this movie and let people see it again, my perfect villain idea would be Reed Richards. But Ian Groffones from the original Fantastic Four movies,
So
I think that would have been sick.
So apparently, all of them were supposed to be in it. It wasn't supposed to just be Chris Evans as the Human Torch. They were all supposed to be in it. The studio didn't want to pay all of them.
I heard a lot of people were, supposed to be in this movie. Like, we were supposed to get Ben Affleck as Daredevil, but he
I didn't hear that one.
didn't have the time or they didn't pay him. Yeah, they wanted to get as many as they could. I don't know if they wanted to try and get Nick Cage as Ghost Rider.
See, and that's
That would have
the
been
thing.
cool, I guess. That's the thing. These characters would have been expensive to pay for and expensive to make on screen.
But my problem is also they're here for no reason other than fan service because they don't add anything to the story. Like, why was Blade in this movie?
No, for sure. But I can make a thematic reason for Reed. If you want to hear my pitch.
Absolutely.
All right. So we are all prepping for this Fantastic Four movie, which is great. But to understand Reed Richards as like an archetype, he's just straight up the smartest man in the universe. All right. Now, you can just argue if you were to give him that Cassandra Nova villain role in this movie, where Cassandra Nova is pretty much just like raised this like army down her side, just like a bunch of subjects. The smartest man in the universe can do that, sure, right? But as far as like if Reed Richards had to fight either Deadpool or Wolverine, he'd probably lose by himself. My fun idea is, if you remember in, I guess this is spoiling, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007, if I want to say that's right. Johnny Storm at the very end is able to like absorb the powers of the Four, and that's how he takes on Doom. I'd like to argue that's something that this Reed Richards could like reverse engineer to do to himself. And the only reason he would do that is because he had to save his universe from dying, because that's what this whole movie's about, like dying universes. So he does that, and you can introduce the Council of Reeds. So that's what I'm saying. He grabs all of these powers just to he can get all of these powers, and that would give him definitely enough to hold his own against Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Now let's introduce the Council of Reeds, which, for anyone who doesn't know, it was like the first real idea of like multiversal variants in Marvel Comics, where there exists in the multiverse just a bunch of different Reed Richards, the smartest men in the universe, that create a council of themselves to like make decisions that affect the entire multiverse.
Oh, that's where Rick and Morty got
I guess
it
it's a
from?
lot like the TVA. Say again?
That's where Rick and Morty got it from?
That's exactly where Rick and Morty got it from.
Oh,
And their creators
shit.
are quoted as grabbing that. Yeah, so the Council of Ricks is ripped straight out of the Council of Reeds.
Oh, fuck off, bro. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing. My idea for that. So if you're familiar with the Council of Ricks and like making decisions and shit and Rick and Morty, blah, 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 the Council of Reeds, at least in the MCU, can have that same purpose, right? Like their sole mission is to prevent any version of Doctor Doom from discovering multi-universal travel and causing harm. So that would establish Doom like threat to the universe. And just like Reed Richards, like this Victor Von Doom can come in a bunch of different forms. So like you can just throw in, if you had the money, you have like Eon's like original Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic, you got Miles Teller, you got John Krasinski. So you've got a bunch of different looking ones, and then we'll have Pedro Pascal's, and then you can have all the different Victor Von Dooms, and then that can like justify like why we have like a Tony Stark Victor Von Doom.
Well,
But also, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say they did already say that he's not going to be Tony Stark as Doom. He is Victor Von Doom.
Wow,
So my
we
question-
must talk about that.
My question, quick, before we get there, is like what you were saying earlier, Trey, right? Where you felt like this was a movie made for MCU fans and not everybody else. My question is, have we gotten to a point where like that's their only option? Because we're really deep into like characters and lore, and we're 30-something movies deep into the universe right now, and like, do we think that it's the appeal that it had to every person is kind of diminished now because of how exhaustive it is to have to get into it? Because like most of my comic book knowledge comes from the movies. I have tried to read comics. I can't get into the medium. I wish I could, but like it feels exhausting at this point in a way that like other franchises like Star Wars are also getting. And I wonder if the plan here is to just appeal to those people because it's super hard to make the mass appeal the way that they did at the start.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Yes, because they pretty much have a built-in audience now at this point. This movie proves that. Well, that's not true because they let the Marvels flop. They lost money on Quantumania too. I don't know because like people just love Deadpool and his shtick, and that's the thing. Your mileage is gonna vary with the Deadpool movies, especially this one, because again, it doesn't really work without Wolverine. And then a lot of the cameos again were for nobody but the MCU fans. Like, why was Channing Tatum in this as Gambit? Like it was cool to actually see like a live action Gambit and see Gambit use his powers in live action. Yeah, that was cool, but like, why the fuck was he in this? And it's just like, why was Daphne Keene's Laura the one giving him the pep talk when he's talking about how his X-Men died? He name drops Storm, Jean, Beast, and Scott. Why aren't they in the fucking movie anywhere? You bring back Jennifer Garner as Elektra and not a single X-Men? Like, are you serious, dog? This is supposed to be your big farewell to 20th Century Fox, and you don't have a single other X-Man in it.
That was my problem with it too. Like, we didn't see anyone. And we saw villains.
You think? Yeah, I mean, wasn't Lady Deathstrike with? Oh, she was in it, and Bullseye was in
Sabretooth.
Psylocke.
Yeah,
Who'd you say?
Psylocke was in it. Yeah, but like, do you think it's a money issue?
Yes, and that's the problem. They want to make these as cheaply as possible, and it's a detriment now. They're just mass producing these.
Yeah, it comes back to the thing we've
It's like,
talked about a lot, which is content versus art. Like, obviously, all film is art, but the like contentification of everything that we consume is like making its way into movies now too, and I think it has been for a while. But it's like it feels less like let's make a movie and more like how do we create content for the masses. And mass appeal can be a good thing, but I feel like we're sacrificing like what people really enjoy seeing in movies in order to get that.
Yeah, because like the humor in this gets so meta at one point that the audience, I saw it with today, just stopped laughing because they just didn't get the jokes anymore.
A lot of the jokes targeted, like what you mentioned, longtime MCU fans that are like in it for the long haul at this point.
And that's the problem. Like, if you keep making movies like that, you're not really making movies for anyone besides people who are expecting you to do the same thing over and over again. So like, you're never going to grow. You're never going to grow your audience, but you don't need to if you keep making $1 billion. So who cares?
I just feel like part of the beauty of like the original Avengers films and all of those like character introduction films was how easy it was to get into them. That's why it brought so many fans in, and that's why this has become kind of the like behemoth of movies that it is, and why it has like defined and changed so much about the way we make and consume movies in the past like decade. But now it's so hard to enter the space. Like, it's hard to appeal to new fans when you're this deep into it. And that's not a problem for some people. Like, I can sit there and watch the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings for 12 hours because I like to consume things like that. But some people don't want to watch 28 movies to get to this space. So how do you juggle like allowing people to enter now versus trying to please people who've been here the whole time? And is it even possible to do both of those things?
I want to say Kevin Feige. So he's been asked this question before. And in a more recent video I watched with him in it, he said what he's doing is he's creating an experience. He's creating an experience for anyone that would want to get into these. So he's encouraging people to start from the very beginning, but that's a super daunting task. Mm-hmm. Terrence, you were saying it's like creating content. And like, when does it stop becoming content when you've got probably like a total of like, I don't know, like 57 hours worth of like MCU Marvel minutes? Like, that's a lot to consume. And like, even if you were that out over a year, that's exhausting. How are you not going to like get burnt out from just trying to get into something?
Yeah, I mean, there's 34 movies. Like, I just looked it up to try to be as like accurate as I can. And like, that's super cool. If you love this thing, you're like, I can see every character that I've ever loved on comic books come to life in movies. But how do you make that appeal also to the person who's never read a comic book in their life? Because 34 movies is a lot. And while you want to encourage people to get into it, it's great. I think a lot of people should get into new things, but there's like nothing that exists that is that daunting outside of like book series. Like, there's no other collection of movies. There's not even really like many TV shows left that have that much of it to consume. And like, people just get turned off by the sheer volume of it if they're trying to make an entrance, I feel like.
Absolutely. And we thought that it was, you know, one of those things where, wow, we are so invested in it for long haul, all the way up into Avengers Endgame. And then once we like left that phase, and then we have the arrival of Disney Plus and getting these actual mini series that matter to the entire narrative that's been ongoing for however many years up to that point, you just start to see people, you know, fall off. You get more people saying, oh my gosh, we've never had anything like this before. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened. But then you're coming back to the question of how does one even get into this? Because I don't know if you guys remember, I think this was a huge thing when we were in college or like right after that, where they had the super movie marathons in theaters. Where it's like you can just sit in this theater for 7 hours straight and just back to back every single movie that exists up to the point in prep for that next big blockbuster. And that you couldn't even pull anything off like that right now with how long we've gone.
Like 3 days now if you try to do it. And I think
you're underselling it.
Yeah. My main thing with the MCU, I think, has always been, like, I really think they should have taken a break after Endgame. I think they should have taken, like, a year or 2 years off from telling these stories to make people want more again. And I think that would have stopped a lot of what we're dealing with now if we had time to just, like, sit with what had happened and be like, wow, that was great, and I want more of it. But you had more of it immediately, and you don't get that, like, that longing for it if you have it immediately. Like, I think of the fact that there's, like, 20 years in between the original Star Wars trilogy and the prequels, and like how huge that was because you had to wait so long for it. And I think if they had just taken a short break after Endgame and still continued to make more content after that, it would have changed the vibes around the whole situation. And I think it would have worked much better.
Sorry,
you bring up a very interesting point, because what you're saying is if we had taken a break after Endgame in 2019 and we didn't have our COVID-19 lockdown, we may have a very, different situation here, because that's the thing. When did Disney Plus release? Was it in response to lockdown?
No, Disney Plus was like 2018, I believe. It was 2018, 2017.
Okay, well, I know the service boomed once we were all in lockdown. All streaming services boomed,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that spike encouraged all of those, Disney ideas to like go full send, Terrence. And it was pretty much those studios looking at, why would we dip out of this now when we are at the height of making as much money off of these fans as we can? And
yeah, that's always
a lot of us bought into it.
Yeah, of course. It always comes back to like, we're making money and we don't want to stop making money. I just think, like, from a creative standpoint, if they had taken a break, I don't think it would be as a divisive a situation as it is now if we had gotten a quick break from the content coming out.
I definitely think Terrence is onto something with that, because like, think about like how many shows we've gotten or they've announced and have not gotten. Like Ironheart's done. Like, that show is done. They filmed it. It's done. It was supposed to come out already this year. It's not coming out till next year. That show's complete.
So
Armor Wars was supposed to be a TV show. It's a movie now. What's up with that? Where's that at? Kang Dynasty. They set all that up. That's done. What are they doing with Moon Knight? What are they doing with Miss Marvel? What are they going to do with She-Hulk?
Yeah, it's just too much for them. You can't make good on all of this potential, on all of like these creative directions, especially like as a company, as you continue to lay off more people and not hire people to do their jobs. Like, it's just, they like overran themselves and now they're backpedaling to catch up. And like, you can kind of feel that when you watch and listen to them.
Yeah, the whole thing, everybody was always like, in Feige we trust, because everybody assumed there was a plan, but there's clearly never been really a plan. I mean, a lot of the actors even kind of owned up to that when they said like there were rewrites the day of almost every day on the shoot of Endgame.
And I think that like desire to backpedal and kind of like fix everything to make sure that like they can tie all the knots that they want to tie. I feel like that sort of backtracking is how you get decisions like the Doom casting. It's like, we're going backwards anyway. Let's do the sure thing. Let's make a decision that we think everyone's gonna like celebrate, and that will kind of stop the conversation around what we're doing that people don't like.
So how does everybody feel about the Doom casting?
It's whack. I don't think I've seen the internet turn on that decision in like a span of like 27 hours. So people like loved it at first, and then after they slept on it, took another nap, they realized, whoa, you know what? Why is that not great? And then you saw super long discourse from everyone about like why this isn't good. I'm seeing like YouTube videos hitting my algorithm saying, why this casting sucks. Like, that's the thumbnail. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, here's the thing I've seen and said all the time. Like, yeah, if you're going to see a character return, or like this doesn't honor the death of one character in the like comic book movie, honestly, that's just what comic books do. Like, characters don't stay dead for too long. I can't get mad at that. But that's the thing. You aren't really treating it that way. Like, Iron Man's not coming back. We're just getting Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom. And I don't know, I feel like I've already discussed this with Trey and Dickson. Like, it just seems like wasted potential. Like, why can't we have a fresh, young, talented face? I mean, you know, young as in like someone that doesn't get a lot of shine. Robert Downey Jr. has gotten plenty of shine in this universe.
It's because he's fresh off an Oscar win, so it gives the role more weight and legitimacy.
Wait, what Oscar win did he?
Oh, he just went for Oppenheimer this year.
Oh, I thought it was that show he was doing.
That would have been
HBO?
That would have been an Emmy.
Oh.
I feel like it's a lazy decision. Like, it's easy to fall back on things that you are fairly confident will be successful. It's easy to fall back on someone who you know is a talented actor, who you know that people like. But I think it really does come back to like what we're saying about risk taking, right? They don't want to take risks creatively, and so we're seeing that now bleed into casting decisions too. Like, he can be great in this role, and he might be. He's a good actor. But it just, like Erik said, like, you have an opportunity to bring somebody else into this universe now. Somebody who, like, might not be as successful, who might not have gotten this attention yet. So you have the opportunity to, like, pick an actor who can really embody this role. Whereas all we're going to see when we see Victor now is Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. And I like... Yep. This is the thing I feel about, like, with movies in general, right? Like, sometimes with universes that are, like, particularly foreign to ours, like universes with superheroes, sci-fi, fantasy, I feel like it's almost always better to have more unrecognizable actors, because it kind of breaks my immersion to be like, hey, that's like Brad Pitt in Middle Earth, you know, or like that's Robert Downey Jr., who also played someone else in this universe, in that universe. And I feel like it just is a decision that, like, I can't imagine the way that you rationalize it.
I can. Only because I've brought this idea up, and it's not an original take at all. This was crowd control for scrambling after Jonathan Majors was cut from his role as Kang. So we needed to appease all these fans, and it's a Hall H San Diego Comic-Con announcement. So that moment's going to go viral no matter what. So we're going to bring back fans to our side who may have, you know, given up on the MCU, but who are you bringing back, you know?
You guys remember a couple of years ago where all those news outlets were like, we're going to pivot the video? Marvel's pivoting back to Robert Downey Jr. That's what this is. They're pivoting.
That's what it is.
I feel like it's nice to see it backfire a little bit, because like it's such a weird decision to make, and like it's not going to take the attention away. Like, we're not going to forget that Jonathan Majors has been accused of abusing a number of women because you get the cool dude back and paid him so much money that your VFX teams are going to like now work 48-hour days somehow. But it's just like it just makes no sense. And I'm glad that people aren't just like rah we love Robert Downey Jr., because it's not his fault, obviously, but it's encouraging to see people think a little bit more critically on it than maybe they have in the past.
Like, even the fact that they're getting the Russos.
I just want them to...
Oh, go ahead, Dickson.
No, I just want to bring Kang back. Like, you could just recast him as somebody else.
They could, but they won't.
And give me back that story. I want to see Kang's stories on on the screen. I feel like it could be a long-term type of story, like how we had Infinity War, because he has many different arcs that just go so deep that I feel like we could turn this into another 10-year span, but hopefully with better storytelling, better narrative.
That's the other problem is that, like, one of the reasons why so many people really took to Jonathan Majors in the role is just because he was so good in the role. It wasn't particularly, excuse me, it wasn't because of the writing necessarily. I will say for Loki season 2 is probably like a combination of his performance and the writing, but I far more for season 1 when he first shows up. It's definitely just his performance. And it's the same thing in Quantumania. It's not necessarily like he's bad in it. It's just the writing is not that great.
Yeah, for sure. You can see him trying his best to persevere through it.
In what, season 2 Loki?
Like,
yeah.
And Quantumania, like, it's super hard to watch, like, regardless of who he is as a person, which seems to be quite terrible. But, like, Jonathan Majors is a good actor, and it's so strange to watch him, like, performing and then be carried away by 100 ants.
Yeah, like it's just well, and that's the other thing too, right? Is that Kang's supposed to be the new Thanos, and you just killed one of his variants with ants.
Also, it's like there are a lot of people that got into like movie or the MCU through the movies, or pretty much just like Marvel like content, just knowledge. How does it look if like your big bad was defeated by Ant-Man? You know, people are thinking like, oh, what a punk, and like that's no shot against Paul Rudd. He's a vampire, and I love him.
Ant-Man's not like an Omega level comic book character anyway.
Which is crazy to say too, because like especially after Endgame, where like they made him such a pivotal role in almost the heart of the movie.
Agreed.
Right, in the MCU, he's a Omega level kind of character, but it's just like overall.
True.
I don't know. He can't warp reality or anything like that.
I feel like they really are just a product of their own success. Like, you can't really beat the build-up to Endgame and how that felt. Like, the slow burn, the emotional payoff, the just moments where you have that are so, like, plentiful, that are like, holy fuck, that's just really cool. And, like, that was, I think the problem is, like, that's the pinnacle of what they can reach.
And that's all they're trying to do now, too, is just replicate that.
Yeah, they don't want to make us invest in characters that we will love.
No.
Like they did before. And I think we talked about it many times before, but bring it up again. Shang-Chi, like good kung fu movie, but even I didn't feel a really good, strong connection with him. Like I couldn't develop some kind of relationship. And I kind of feel like that with all new actors. I don't think it's an actor thing, but for me, like currently watching newer movies and stuff, I just can't find somebody that I like or I enjoy, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm holding on to nostalgia or whatever it may be.
How they write them.
Yeah, I also think that there's not enough meat and potatoes for a lot of characters, even for non-Marvel movies. Like I feel like DC stuff needs a little more meat and potatoes for some of their characters.
Deadpool and Wolverine is the same movie as The Flash. Yeah. Almost beat for beat. They are the same movie. Down to Nicolas Cage being the cameo equivalent of Channing Tatum. They're the same fucking movie. Deadpool travels through the multiverse to find old Wolverine to help him save his universe. It's the same fucking movie, and they are both very mediocre.
Yeah.
One, I hope, a little bit more than the other.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's not as bad as The Flash.
For sure. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine is bad. It's close to being bad, but it's not bad.
It's a C+. Because
here's the thing about Deadpool and Wolverine.
I don't even call it bad.
Here's the thing about Deadpool and Wolverine, right? If you take the two fights between Deadpool and Wolverine out of that movie's bad. If two fight scenes save your movie, it's not a good movie.
That's also, I'm not calling it a bad movie. I'm calling it an entertaining one.
Oh no! That's what I'm saying. It's definitely entertaining, but I can't say it's a good movie, but I also can't say it's a bad movie. Because the other thing is too is like again, what was the point of putting Henry Cavill in there as Wolverine? It's the same thing with fucking John Krasinski. Yeah, exactly. It's the same fucking thing with John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. What was the fucking point?
It's a jab.
You're like, oh, here, internet, you wanted this, you get it. That's it. That's all you're getting. We didn't really mean it. We just wanted you to see the movie.
That's why they couldn't pay for the X-Men to show up, Trey.
I mean, if they had just written the movie to involve the X-Men, that solves the fucking budget problem.
I just wish that they couldn't hear fans' opinions. Because, like, that's how we got Rise of Skywalker, too. Like, stop listening to fans. They don't know what they want. People consume things. That doesn't mean that they're good filmmakers and good storytellers. And, like, some people are going to hate what you do. Some people are going to love it. But stop trying to appeal to, like, the lowest common denominator of your fan base by sprinkling in stuff for them. But the idea is if we appeal to everyone, we make more money. But by doing that, sometimes you wind up appealing to no one.
Can I add? I'm going to segue off of that with a point that Dickson brought up. Because... Sorry, Dickson. You called Shang-Chi a good kung fu movie? I don't think it's a good kung fu movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I love
Shang-Chi's bad. It's
I just love
kung fu movie. It's a bad
Shang-Chi's
movie.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's better, but I think that was pretty well done for like a.
That's not even good for American standards, dog. Don't lie to yourself like that. They made Winter Soldier. The kung fu in Shang-Chi's not even as good as the kung fu in Rush Hour. Stop it.
He's right.
Rush Hour's great.
Yeah.
But like.
Exactly, Rush Hour ain't even that good. It has better martial arts, bro.
All right, before we keep jabbing at Dixon, let me finish this point. So the thing about Shang-Chi, and I've mentioned this already with Trey and Dickson, that movie tried too hard to pull from comic book resources and knowledge, but no one gives a fuck. Who the fuck read a Shang-Chi comic before that movie? Don't give a fuck about Shang-Chi. He's just known as like Marvel Bruce Lee, and that's already cool. They tried too hard to like be honest to his story beats, but no, just write a kick-ass kung fu movie. People will watch a kick-ass kung fu movie, and then maybe throw a Marvel character in there somewhere just to like show and like connect it all. Fine, but it tried way too hard to be part of that universe when it could have just been good kung fu.
Yeah, I think his debut was back in like the 70s or something. And then I was just saying on the last episode, he didn't have any comic books after that. There was nothing new to him until the movie came out, and then he has a whole new storyline.
I mean, he showed up a few times. He was like a defender, a hero for hire. He's a bunch of weird things. He's never like important.
No, yeah, it's not. He can't be he's not a main character.
That's the thing. Yeah, he's not a main character. He's always a team member.
Yeah, he's a supporting character, if anything. But yeah, like, you guys right. You right. I want it. You know, I want it to be.
I want it to be successful too. But again, I think it's just the fault of the writing. It's like, look, the worst character in that movie is Shang-Chi. That's
everybody else is better.
That's a fact, dog. That's a fucking fact. He's the most boring character in his own movie.
And just the way he was written and like goes back and forth between like showing growth, so shit. And like you didn't have to give him any sort of costume, but they did, and it's whack.
Yeah, I really hate
like
that
they
costume.
purposely make him whack. It sucks.
I really dislike the way they made him look. I kind of wish they did something else with it.
They're writing the same humor and the same jokes for every character now for 5 years. I think that's why it's
the same formula.
Flat. And like, I think that movie, like, for me personally, suffered from like I don't love Aquafina.
Who does?
All right, so my quick story time that is going to derail us for a second, but I have been in 5 feet from Aquafina, and let me tell you, she does not always talk with the accent.
The black accent, you can say it.
Yes, I was going to say it. The black accent is not natural. That is performative.
Yeah, people keep calling her out for it, and every time somebody on Twitter calls her out for it, she blocks them. So,
like, through my wife's job, I got invited to the Rings of Power premiere, and she was there, and she was standing 5 feet from us talking. And I was like, "Oh, so that really is not how you actually sound. You put on the black accent," and I can't enjoy what she does now.
Yeah. Guess what, guys? Like Aquafina, I myself am an Asian person from Queens. I don't have a black accent. That's crazy. You can only, I don't know. Like there's whatever, you can say I'm not going to buy, but especially, look, Aquafina didn't have to be in that movie. Like, I don't know. I think that was a weird casting choice too. Now I'm just going to bag on Shang-Chi and I want to like it.
I do want to shout out the other actors that were in there that are from like Chinese.
I was gonna say because
HK
the guy who plays his dad is an incredibly famous Chinese actor who's like critically acclaimed in America and China and pretty much all over the world. I forget the name of the movie. Is it
Tony Leung?
Yes.
Was
he in The Mood for Love? I can't remember.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
He was like in everything.
Yeah, he's been acting for too long, and he's done shows. He was in Hero. You guys remember Hero with Jet Li and Donnie Yen?
I do remember
He
Hero.
was in Hero. That was a big one in the U.S. What's another big U.S. movie he was in?
I can't even remember the Chinese ones that I might have saw.
Hard Boil. He's in Hard Boil.
Oh shit, he is in Hard Boiled.
Yeah, I love that.
completely
I love
forgot he's
that.
in that
What's that movie type called? Is it police crime?
No, there's an actual like term for that
It's like
that
hardcore
genre of like
detective.
Hong Kong detective. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
There's Internal Affairs. I don't know. That's a really Chinese movie. There's like 9 of those, but all different actors. Same story.
He was the best character in Shang-Chi. Like, he acted the shit out of that role, and he just got the best narrative against everyone. Yeah, like, legit. Like, he just had a better, like, story arc, better lines. He delivered them way better.
Well, I was going to say, he also learned English for that movie, so that's his first time speaking English, and he's delivering his lines better than everybody else in the movie.
Oh, you should listen to him in the Chinese movie speaking English. It's the funniest thing I ever. I'll send you guys some clips. It's really choppy. It's really funny. But you know what's so back to the kung fu thing, right? You know what's really fucked up? They had Yunhua in it, right? He was like the old master that taught Aquafina how to shoot the bow and arrow. Yeah, he is a Hong Kong movie kung fu movie actor. And like you had these people that could have directed your martial arts better, and they just didn't use it. And I'm pretty sure he probably can't even get into that kind of discussion because it's it's not Disney approved.
Well, that's like,
But like you had all these capabilities with all these people that were in the movie, and they're even Michelle Yeoh has really good martial arts background.
Word.
And
Yeah,
they couldn't hire like a HK choreographer, martial arts choreographer, like that could have
just
been.
what they do, dude. Because like they put two dudes from the raid in the Force Awakens, and they get eaten. They don't do nothing. Like
Well, you guys know I don't watch Star Wars, but I didn't know.
this is just what the fuck Disney does. They're like, oh, this thing was popular. People like these people. Put them in the movie. Don't let them do anything.
Imagine adding martial arts to Star Wars. That would be insane.
Oh, they did.
Oh, they did.
Oh, what, Rogue One?
No,
With Donnie?
well, yeah, Rogue One, but
Oh,
also
yes.
Ahsoka and the Acolyte.
Oh, I haven't seen those. Too spacey.
Yeah, you're not gonna like the Acolyte at all.
No.
You're not gonna like any of these.
So,
Trey, how do you feel about DJ as Doom?
I hate it. I'm not watching a single Marvel movie now because of it, to be entirely honest with you. Because they're literally just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again because they know they can get away with it. I'm not going to keep funding it. I'm just not. Like, literally the only reason why I saw Deadpool and Wolverine is because somebody was like, yo, there's a cameo in there that you're going to love. And then it got spoiled anyway. So I'm like, well, fuck me.
Honestly,
Can we
that's
talk
where I'm
about
at,
that too? Sorry, Terrence.
No,
'Cause
you're good.
I talked about this with Trey. Why the fuck would you have a panel the same weekend of your opening of your what's it called, movie release, and then bring out the like surprise cameos on stage with you?
I saw a picture of Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes hugging exactly 2 hours before I saw the fucking movie.
I saw Channing Tatum waving to the like panel audience right next to Ryan Reynolds, and I said, fuck. And that's the thing, he was wearing his stupid Gambit shirt, and I'm like, of course. And yeah, I didn't tell you this, Dickson. Yeah, well, like maybe like 5 hours before this movie, like as I was getting ready to go out for the day, before watching this fucking movie. Like, there's no need to have a panel, because everyone that's attending that panel was gonna see that movie fucking anyway.
Well, it's because they
Like,
screened it
why?
the night
What's the
before.
point? It's like, yo, this should not be a hot take. You don't need to screen like movies that are out that same weekend at a convention. Like, what is the point of that? People are gonna see this movie regardless. Like, you already paid. Go to Artist Alley. Go explore the con. Don't go to a screening of a movie that you can go to after the con. Like, that's so unnecessary to me.
Why pay to see it if it's included in the ticket price of Comic-Con?
I mean, those ticket prices are ridiculous, but still.
The more ridiculous, the more it should be justified that you should explore the con and get a con experience, not watch a movie that's out in theaters right now.
So I guess we can start wrapping up then with just going through. How does everybody feel not only about the Robert Downey Jr. casting, but just about the MCU overall now? Terrence, let's start with you.
I mean, I talked about the casting. I feel like it's lazy. I feel like it is not a decision driven by any sort of creative person involved in it. And I've been at this point for a little while, honestly. Like, the only reason I saw Quantumania was because Dickson wanted to go as a group. So I was like, fine, I'm not going to say no to time with friends. But I'm not going to see Deadpool in theaters. This is a personal thing more than a problem with the MCU, but it's too much for me. There's too much of it. I want kind of differentiation in what I'm consuming, and going forward, I'll go see stuff that I'm particularly interested in, but I don't know if that's going to be much. I think I'll see Fantastic Four because I think the part of it being a period piece is a little interesting to me. But aside from that, I don't know what else I'm going to go see.
Erik?
I think I already said in the pod why I don't like it. I definitely just don't. I think it's a waste. I would have liked to see someone else because I feel like once we're done with, was it Doomsday and then Secret War, we're never going to see Doom again. And that's it. Or in this universe. And that's a shame because I think he would have been cool to have as a lasting villain. That's the thing. The MCU doesn't have lasting villains. It's we'll go through this blockbuster event and then knock them out and we'll put a new person on the board. And that's a little boring to me. I'd like someone to be a returning threat. And then it's not going to, if they were to cast a new Doom and bring a new Doom however many years later, that sounds super boring to me. And why do we have to do this because now I'm going to think about the RDJ Doom. That was also Iron Man. That was blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. I do love these movies. I enjoy them. I like Terrence, enjoy differentiation in everything I consume. I am very much a victim of this long-term experience that Kevin Feige has created with the MCU. And I don't want to say I'm in it for the long haul, but I'm, still invested enough to want to see the things that look interesting enough to me. There's been plenty I skipped, but yeah, Fantastic Four, I love period pieces in general. And I think it's just nice to, support some of the casting decisions made in this movie that I'm interested to see. But it's weird. It's nothing about RDJ excites me. When I saw that announcement at Hall H, I thought, oh, I wasn't hype. And that's the thing. I think past me should have been hype. And I don't think anything really excites me from Marvel like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Same. Dickson?
Yeah, piggybacking off what Erik said. Yeah, when I saw Robert Downey, I was also just like, okay, still, I want the Kang story back. Recast him or something, please. I'm not against RDJ being Doom, but if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it good. You gotta pick one of the stories that involves Tony in it. I want that. That's what I want. I hope they do something remotely like that. Right? Because there's one where he switched bodies with Doom, or Doom switches bodies with him, or something like that, or whatever. Right? As for the MCU, though, where are you going to go after Secret Wars? Right? Because that's the end. Right? That's the end of the whole thing, right? That should be the end, right? Because in comic books, Secret Wars is technically a rewrite. It ends the 616, turns into the multiverse, then we get the, rewrite everybody's story in that way.
You know what's crazy? You saying all that was literally already done in Loki season 2.
Yeah, so it's where are you going?
That's the thing, dog. They keep repeating the same fucking plot lines.
Where are you going? You got to do something. You got to either have a long-term, or you're going to call it, this is the end of the MCU. Secret Wars would be the end of the MCU. And then we get a long break, and then we get reboots.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get a long break.
But that's the other thing, right? Is that Kevin Feige has come out and be yeah, the next phase is the Age of Mutants. I'm what the fuck, you haven't announced a single fucking X-Men project,
right?
And I would love X-Men 97 season 2 is on the way, but what the fuck else y'all got? You killed off Scarlet Witch, she's dead. They didn't even confirm that in Multiverse of Madness. They released a book that said, oh yeah, by the way, she's dead.
So that's you can't kill her off. You need her. She's
Apparently
pivotal
not.
To the X-Men stories.
Apparently
but now no one's dead. Once you introduce multiverse, no one's dead. So
and that's
you
the
can
whole
find a way to bring back anybody you need to.
Ugh. If you're gonna do it, just do it right. That's it.
Them do a villain team up. That's what I want.
A villain team up. That's kind of technically the Thunderbolts.
I was gonna say you're
kind of.
Because instead of one big bad, just have a bunch of little ones. Do something different.
It would be dope if they just did fucking Sinister Six,
which they technically already did.
Oh fuck, you're right. Never mind.
They just need to make it a Sinister Six movie, and then you got to pick a Spider-Man, or you have to go with Tom Holland.
Yeah,
which I don't mind, but if you're gonna continue with Tom Holland, you gotta make sure he gets a little older throughout the comics. I want college Peter Parker.
The problem is he just has a baby face.
He was also taking his GED at the end, or studying for his GED, so he'll be, in theory, he should be in college in whatever next movie he appears in.
Yep.
I still don't like the Robert Downey Jr. casting. I probably never will, which is upsetting because I did see the leaked test footage for Fantastic Four, and the aesthetic of an Art Deco retro futuristic New York City in the 60s is very much my bag. Seeing that footage, I was like, oh damn, this looks fire. I'm not paying to see this shit. And that's kind of where I'm at with the MCU. I'm not paying for this shit, bro. I'm just not. I'm not. I don't care anymore. I'm over it. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
You got to see test footage?
I was over it once I saw MODOK's butt cheeks.
Oh god, MODOK is the worst fucking CGI I ever seen. Ever. And they totally ruined it. They could have made him way better.
He's not a dick.
He looks like George Lopez in Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
You know what? I think that's a perfect place to stop. All right. Well, thank you to our guest.
I guess I'm sorry.
No. That was great. That was perfect. To be honest with you, But yeah, no, thank you so much, Eric. Like, this was great having you on. We definitely want to have you back. But yeah, no, thank you for coming, sharing your knowledge of Marvel. I genuinely did not know about the Council of Reeds, so that shit blew my mind, to be honest.
No, it's fucked. Marvel's full of, shit like that. But, thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I love chopping it up. It doesn't have to be about comics, and it's just nice to be in a space to do that with, like-minded folks that love discussing. I love discussing.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about stuff.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Falafel.
Thank you once again.
You see that? Do you guys know shirts that go hard?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You see that one shirt that's like, philosophers only want one thing, and it's fucking disgusting.
I wanted to.
But yeah, no, for real. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate you being on. This has been another episode. Takes Talks and Tangents.
Farewell all.
Thank you, everyone.
Love you all. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Eric.